That contemptuous look from the saleswoman when you entered the luxury store wearing sneakers. I've been through that. I, Carol, have been judged for not looking like I had enough money to be there. But what she didn't know was that I had just closed an important contract and was ready to spend. However, I didn't want to buy anything after that treatment. And you know what happened? On the same day, I saw a woman enter the same store, wearing simple but impeccable clothes, and be treated like royalty. The receptionist practically bowed, offered champagne, and the saleswoman who had treated me with disdain appeared smiling as if she had seen a celebrity. The difference? She mastered something that money alone doesn't buy. The silent codes of elegance that make high-class people instantly recognized, even when wearing basic pieces. It wasn't about the brand of the bag or the model of the shoe. It was about how she carried herself, how her clothes fit perfectly on her body, and how each element of her look seemed to have been chosen with purpose. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave your like if you want to learn these invisible codes and transform your elegance into something lucrative, both in opportunities and treatment. Because believe me, when you master these codes, doors open before you even knock. Remember Emily in Paris, who made all possible mistakes when arriving in the French capital? She used too many colors, conflicting patterns, layers upon layers, and still thought she was killing it. Those berets and colorful socks that she combined with leopard prints and checkered patterns? A walking fashion nightmare. She had money to buy expensive pieces, but didn't have the knowledge to use them correctly. And as a result, she was ridiculed by French women, who with their perfectly cut pants and simple silk shirts seemed 1,000 times more sophisticated without apparent effort. It's like that scene where her boss, Sylvie, observes her with that look of pity mixed with horror. Sylvie, with her perfectly imperfect hair, minimalist makeup, and clothes in neutral colors, conveyed more power in a single basic piece than Emily with her entire Technicolor wardrobe. Because there's a huge difference between having expensive clothes and having style. It's like the difference between having a grand piano at home and knowing how to play Chopin. One is just an acquisition, the other is a cultivated skill. And today I'm going to show you the 11 secrets I've observed in the most elegant women I've met in my life. Those who know how to play the symphony of fashion like true maestros. I saw this happen recently at a party I attended. The room was full of women silently competing with their looks. There was one in particular wearing a diamond necklace that must have cost more than an apartment, huge earrings, bracelets on both wrists, rings on almost all fingers. It looked like she had just robbed her grandmother's jewelry box and decided to wear everything at once. The look screamed, "Look how much money I have," so loudly that it was almost possible to hear. Meanwhile, a lady of approximately 70 years entered the room. She wore only a simple gold bracelet, perfectly arranged hair in a low bun, and a black dress with impeccable cut that I would doubt was designer, but that fit like a glove on her body, evidently made to measure. Nothing flashy, nothing excessive, but she was, without a doubt, the most elegant woman at the party. All eyes turned to her, not for the jewelry or status, but for her presence. She greeted people by name, listened attentively to each conversation, laughed with genuine interest. Her posture was upright but not rigid. Her movements were graceful, as if each gesture had been choreographed but still seemed natural. She radiated a serene confidence that no expensive jewelry could buy. The first secret I noticed? Elegant, high-class women know that clothes are not just clothes, they are a language, and they are fluent in it. Each piece they choose tells a story about who they are, without needing to say a word. It's like writing a poem, where each element has meaning and purpose. And just as in poetry, editing, knowing what to remove, is as important as what they decide to include. When I was younger and popular at school, I confess I was a walking fashion disaster. I used to think that elegance meant wearing everything matching, everything just right, as if I had stepped out of a catalog. If I wore pink, it was pink from head to toe. If I wore black, it looked like I was in mourning. And I tried to incorporate every possible trend at the same time, from huge platforms to wide belts, from metallic blouses to very low-waist pants. Result? I looked like a Christmas tree on clearance. I remember a graduation ceremony where I showed up with so many accessories that I made noise when walking. I looked like I had come straight out of a 2000s music video, with that characteristic excess of the time. I thought I was killing it, but when I saw the photos afterwards, well, let's say it wasn't exactly the sophisticated look I imagined. It was by observing over the years that I realized that truly elegant women did just the opposite of what I did. They had an almost minimalist approach, but never boring. They wear fewer accessories, but each with purpose and meaning. Perhaps a vintage brooch that tells a family story or a pair of earrings that perfectly complements the tone of their eyes. They choose colors that converse with each other harmoniously, not identically, like an interesting dialogue, not a repetitive monologue. And most importantly, their clothes seem to belong to them, like a second skin, not as if they were dressed up for a corporate costume party. One day, watching Succession, I noticed how Shiv Roy conveyed power and sophistication with seemingly simple pieces. Have you ever observed how her wardrobe evolved as she gained more influence in the company? At first, she wore more youthful and casual clothes, but as she advanced in the corporate hierarchy, her look transformed into something truly formidable, not for being flashy, but for being impeccably calculated. Perfectly cut tailored pants that seemed to have been made for her, and probably were. Silk blouses in neutral tones that framed her face without drawing more attention than her words. A precise haircut that never seemed out of place, even in the most tense moments. Nothing flashy, but everything impeccable. Each piece served a purpose, to communicate authority without needing to scream for attention. And that's when I understood one of the greatest paradoxes of elegance. The more real power a woman has, the less she needs to announce it through clothing. This is a secret that high-class women have known since early on, almost like an inheritance passed from mother to daughter. Less is infinitely more. While some spend fortunes on bags covered with stamped logos, belts with huge buckles identifying the designer, and clothes that look like walking billboards, the truly elegant invest in quality that only a trained eye recognizes. The perfect cut of a blazer, the impeccable drape of a noble fabric, the manual finish of a well-made shoe. And that's what separates noisy ostentation from true whispered class. I remember when my sister brought Canella, that Yorkshire that won me over even though I wasn't a fan of dogs. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was in the worst mood possible after a stressful week, and I didn't even want to see that little ball of fur that my sister insisted on bringing to the family lunch. But Canella had something different. She wasn't one of those hysterical little dogs that bark at everything. She entered silently, observing the environment with an almost aristocratic curiosity. I noticed that even her collar was elegant and discreet. None of those models covered in rhinestones or flashy colors. It was a simple strip of soft leather in a caramel tone that perfectly complemented her fur. When she approached me, she didn't jump or make that exaggerated fuss. She just looked at me with those intelligent eyes, as if to say, "I'm here if you want my company." And it was impossible to resist. Like Canella, elegant women have this ability to conquer not by the noise they make, but by their silent and striking presence. They enter a room and are noticed not because they scream for attention, but because there is something magnetic about their composure, something that naturally makes eyes turn to them. It's almost like a silent superpower. But don't think that being elegant means being boring or faded. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about elegance. On the contrary, the most sophisticated women I know are also the most interesting, with strong opinions, sharp sense of humor, and an insatiable curiosity about the world. They have personality and authenticity in abundance. The difference is that they know how to express it through intelligent choices, without needing excesses to be noticed. Have you observed the Queen of Denmark, Mary Donaldson? She has a fascinating story. Before becoming royalty, she was an ordinary Australian marketing executive, someone who could be sitting next to you in a cafe or pass you in the supermarket without you noticing. Nothing in her background suggested that one day she would be one of the most elegant women in the world. But when she met Prince Frederick in a bar during the Sydney Olympics, yes, in a bar, her life took an unexpected turn. And in a few years, that ordinary woman transformed into a globally admired icon of elegance. How? It wasn't magic, nor was it just because of the expensive clothes she gained access to. It was because she studied, observed, and learned the invisible codes of true elegance, the same ones I'm going to reveal to you today. If she managed this transformation coming from a background with no connection to royalty or high society, imagine what you can do with the right tools. Because elegance can be learned, cultivated, and perfected, as long as you know where to start. The second secret I noticed in elegant women, and that Mary Donaldson perfectly exemplifies, they dress well every day, not just for special events. If you look at photos of her in casual moments, picking up her children from school, shopping, walking the dog, you'll see that there is always care, an intention in each look. And no, This doesn't mean wearing high heels to go to the market or always being formal. Nothing more distant from true elegance than being inappropriately dressed for the occasion. It means having an intelligent wardrobe with versatile pieces that work day to day, but still elevate your look. It means that even your most casual clothes, like jeans and a t-shirt, are of good quality, well cut, and combined harmoniously. Have you noticed how some people manage to look elegant even wearing the most basic combination in the world? Jeans and a t-shirt? I have a friend like that. We can both enter a store, buy exactly the same basic white t-shirt, wear it with jeans, and yet, on her body, it looks like a magazine-worthy look, while I looked like I had just gotten out of bed after a bad night's sleep. For a long time, I thought she had some kind of fashion superpower, until one day, observing more carefully, I realized it wasn't the t-shirt itself, it was how the t-shirt fell on her body. She mastered the secret of the perfect fit. A simple white t-shirt can look like a wrinkled rag or can look like a luxurious piece worth hundreds of dollars. The difference is not in the price tag, but in how it fits on the body. It was an epiphany that completely changed my relationship with clothes. When I started investing in tailoring adjustments, something I thought unnecessary before, believe me, my wardrobe instantly multiplied in value. I remember a black pair of pants that I loved the fabric and model, but never wore because there was always that strange looseness at the waist and it seemed disproportionately wide in the legs. After a simple 40 reel adjustment at the neighborhood seamstress, it became my favorite piece, the one that always receives compliments when I wear it. And that's the third secret I noticed. Elegant, high-class women never wear clothes that don't fit perfectly. Never. Ever. In no way. For them, it's better to have 5 pieces that fit like a glove than 50 that fit more or less. They understand that fit is infinitely more important than the brand or price. Did you know that Queen Letizia of Spain, considered one of the most elegant women in Europe, frequently wears clothes from Zara? Yes, that same Zara you find at the mall. But when she wears them, they look like haute couture from the most prestigious ateliers in Paris. Why? Because each piece is perfectly adjusted to her body by her team. The dresses are tapered exactly in the right places. The pants fall impeccably, and even the simplest blouses seem to have been made to measure because after the alterations, they effectively were. Now, if you're looking to improve your elegance for your travels, because let's face it, there's nothing worse than that stereotypical American with huge white sneakers, cargo shorts, and neon fanny pack shouting in English in Paris, take the opportunity to check out my ebook, Be Elegant When Traveling, Global Etiquette for the Sophisticated Traveler, with the link in the first pinned comment. The fourth secret I observe in the most elegant women, and that makes all the difference in how they are perceived, is how they choose their colors. And no, they don't just wear black, as many mistakenly think. They use the entire color palette, but in an intelligent and strategic way. They don't blindly follow trends. Remember that ultraviolet purple that was the color of the year a few years ago and that didn't favor practically anyone? Elegant women simply ignored it. Instead, they invest time discovering which shades really complement their specific skin tone, hair, and eyes. An olive-skinned woman with dark hair like me will shine in completely different colors than those that favor a blonde with blue eyes and rosy skin. There is no universal, elegant color. There is the color that makes you look your best version. That's why these women always seem radiant, always with illuminated skin, highlighted eyes, even when using seemingly simple or basic colors. I, with my brown hair and brown eyes, took a while to understand that certain colors favored me more than others. I spent years wearing that vibrant royal blue that was trendy, but that left me looking tired and with more evident dark circles. I also insisted on lemon yellows that gave me an unflattering greenish undertone. It was frustrating to spend money on pieces that I ended up not wearing, because, intuitively, I felt something was wrong when I looked in the mirror. It was after much study and some consultations with personal color specialists that I discovered that my tones are much more harmonious, with warm, earthy, and soft colors, caramels, olive greens, soft corals, petrol blues. And when I finally incorporated this discovery and reformulated my wardrobe based on my personal palette, my style took an instant quality leap. Suddenly, with the same basic pieces, just in different colors, I looked more rested, younger, and received many more compliments, not necessarily about my clothes, but about how I was radiant or looking great. Have you noticed how some celebrities always wear the same style of clothes, just with variations? It's not for lack of options or access to the latest trends, believe me. Look at Sofia Coppola, for example, film director known for her impeccable style. She rarely deviates from her minimalist aesthetic in black and white, with simple silhouettes and little adornment. Year after year, event after event, she maintains this consistency. Or Caroline de Maigret, French model and author with her eternal Parisian style of jeans, blazers, and masculine shirts, slightly disheveled hair, and almost no makeup. She once said in an interview that she essentially has had the same wardrobe for 15 years, just updating pieces when necessary but maintaining the same aesthetic. This is not lack of creativity or fear of experimenting. It's a fifth secret I observe in truly elegant women. They develop a personal signature, an identifiable aesthetic that becomes part of who they are, as recognizable as their handwriting. A high society lady I met at a charity event, let's call her Dona Helena, always wore a touch of red in her looks, whether a well-applied lipstick in a deep cherry tone, a delicate ruby brooch that had belonged to her grandmother, or a silk scarf in burgundy tones tied discreetly to her bag. It was her personal signature, her trademark, and everyone immediately recognized her by this seemingly simple but strategic detail. In a sea of black dresses and traditional pearls, that touch of red highlighted her subtly, without effort or exaggeration. "My grandmother always said that a woman needs a distinctive element," she confided to me when I complimented her. "Something that is recognizably yours, something that speaks about who you are even before opening your mouth." Dona Helena didn't follow all the trends that emerged each season. In fact, she seemed almost impermeable to them. But she was unquestionably chic, timeless, and memorable. "If you try to be everything, you end up being nothing," she said, with that wisdom that only experience brings. This reminds me of something that happened when I was looking for a dress for an important work event. It was one of those occasions where you know you'll be observed and evaluated, and I wanted something that communicated sophistication without seeming like I was trying too hard. I went through several stores, tried on literally dozens of models, long, short, tight, flowing, colorful, neutral, and ended up returning home with nothing. Zero. Not even a pair of earrings. I was frustrated and feeling guilty for having wasted an entire day of shopping with nothing to show for it. My sister was surprised when she saw me arrive empty-handed. "Nothing fit?" she asked. "It's not that it didn't fit," I replied. "It's that nothing seemed me. Everything seemed like a costume, as if I were disguising myself as someone else." It was at this moment that I understood another crucial secret of truly elegant women. They prefer to buy nothing than to buy something that doesn't authentically reflect who they are. They have an almost stoic relationship with shopping. Disciplined, patient, and extremely selective. They are patient with their purchases. They don't let themselves be carried away by tempting promotions like buy one, get two, or by the social pressure to have something new for each event. They don't buy on impulse because something is in fashion or because the influencer of the moment is wearing it. They invest in pieces they completely love and that will last for years, both in quality and style. And because of this, their wardrobes, even if significantly smaller in quantity, are much more functional, versatile, and representative of who they are. Each piece has a purpose. Each item was chosen with intention. There are no purchase mistakes hanging with tags at the back of the closet, nor that pile of regret clothes that we've all had. Think of Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, who became a style icon in the 90s and continues to be a reference to this day. She had an impeccable minimalist style, perfectly cut white shirts, black tailored pants, slip dresses in satin, structured coats, few colors, few prints, clean silhouettes. She didn't need a huge and excessive wardrobe. Each piece she chose was perfect, timeless, and extremely versatile. And even decades after her tragic death, her looks still serve as inspiration for fashion editorials and for women seeking effortless elegance. Why? Because she found her personal style and was faithful to it, regardless of passing trends. The sixth secret I noticed is that elegant women understand the power of consistency. They are not stylistic chameleons, changing radically each day according to mood. They don't appear impeccable at an important event and completely sloppy at the supermarket the next day. Of course, we all have bad days, those mornings when we can barely get out of bed, let alone coordinate a Pinterest-worthy look. Nobody is perfect all the time. But there is a general consistency in how truly elegant women present themselves to the world, a reliability in their level of personal care that becomes part of their identity. I remember a situation when I was teaching at the university. It was a stressful period, end of semester, tests to correct, articles to review. On a particularly chaotic day, I left home in a hurry wearing the first thing I found, an old sweatshirt, faded jeans, and hair poorly tied up. I thought it wouldn't make a difference, after all. It was just another day of work. The students' reaction was revealing. I noticed confused looks, less participation in discussions, a different atmosphere in the room. It wasn't just my imagination. A student even asked if I was sick. There, I understood something important. The way I presented myself visually affected not only how others perceived me, but how they interacted with me. In the following days, I went back to dressing with more care. Nothing extravagant, just well-chosen clothes, arranged hair, a light lipstick. And it was as if a switch had been flipped. The dynamics returned to normal, respect was clearly reestablished. I realized that my students respected me more on days when I dressed with more care. It didn't need to be anything formal or uncomfortable, just well thought out and intentional. One day, I was in a cafe and saw a woman enter. She wore simple linen pants, a white t-shirt, and a delicate necklace. She looked so comfortable and at the same time so elegant that I couldn't stop observing her. Her hair was tied in a low bun without elaborate makeup. That's when I understood the seventh secret. True elegance seems effortless, even when it requires planning. The most elegant women I know seem not to have tried too hard. Their looks are balanced and organic, as if those pieces were destined to be together. I've already talked about colors, but what about prints? Here's another element that separates genuinely elegant women from those who just try to appear sophisticated. Observe high-class women. They are extremely careful and strategic with patterns. They use classic prints like nautical stripes, think of the timeless French style. Discreet polka dots, not the giant and infantilized ones. Traditional plaid, not the exaggerated lumberjack plaid. Animal print in moderate doses. A belt, a flat shoe. Never the entire look unless in very subtle colors. And sophisticated floral prints. Never those that look like grandma's curtain prints. The eighth secret is that they understand that prints make strong and immediate statements. So they use them strategically and with intention, never randomly or in excess. I remember a revealing conversation I had with a stylist who worked for a luxury brand. We were at a launch cocktail, and I was fascinated by her look. She wore a midi silk dress in leopard print in tones of caramel and black, but the rest of the look was absolutely minimalist. Basic black shoes, no jewelry beyond small gold earrings, hair in a simple ponytail. I commented on how she had managed to use such a striking print without seeming exaggerated, and she gave me advice I never forgot. If you're wearing a vibrant patterned piece, the rest of the look should serve as a frame for it, like in a painting, where what matters is the canvas, not the frame. And never mix more than one pattern unless you're absolutely expert at it, which most people aren't. This seemingly simple advice transformed the way I combined my clothes. Before, I would fall into the trap of wanting to add more interest to looks with prints, using flashy accessories or other vibrant colors. The result was always visually confusing and tiring, never elegant. The ninth secret is something I learned from a jewelry designer. We were talking about why certain women can wear huge jewelry and look sophisticated, while others, with similar pieces, end up looking excessive or even vulgar. It's all a matter of punto focale, he explained with that melodious accent. Focal point in English. Elegant women understand this concept instinctively, even if they've never studied design. He explained that in each elegant and well-constructed look, there is an element that stands out, a single protagonist that captures attention. It can be a striking accessory, a piece in a vibrant color, an interesting architectural detail in clothing, or even lipstick in an intense color. The rest of the look is then built to support this focal point, not to compete with it. It's a principle that comes directly from the visual arts, as in interior decoration, where each well-designed room has a highlight point that anchors the space, whether a fireplace, a statement artwork, or a panoramic view. The same principle applies to dressing. If you wear a pair of striking and dramatic earrings, perhaps leave the necklace aside, or choose a minimalist model that doesn't dispute attention. If you're wearing a vibrant patterned blouse, keep the bottom in a solid and neutral color. If the shoe is a conversation piece in itself, a bright red pump, for example, balance with more discreet clothes. This reminds me of the time I was at a book launch event about fashion. It was one of those events where people clearly strive to look sophisticated and fashionable. I saw two women arrive almost simultaneously, wearing relatively similar black midi dresses, that type of elegant dress that every woman should have in her wardrobe. The first was wearing very high heels covered with shiny applications, an equally flashy clutch with gemstones, long sparkling earrings, several huge rings, a statement necklace, very elaborate hair with platinum highlights in a complex hairstyle, heavy makeup with dramatic smoky eye and intense red lipstick. Each element individually was beautiful, but together, it was visual noise, visual confusion. The eyes didn't know where to focus. The second woman wore the same type of black dress, but with fine leather strap sandals, a minimalist clutch, a single wide gold bracelet on her wrist, small earrings, hair in a simple low bun, and natural makeup with just an impeccably applied red lipstick as a focal point. The entire look served to highlight that lipstick and her face. Guess which one seemed more sophisticated and elegant? Which one attracted admiring looks versus curious or even judgmental looks? The second, without a doubt. And ironically, her look probably cost a fraction of the value invested by the first woman. Elegance is not about how much you spend, but about the choices you make with what you have available. The 10th secret I observed among elegant high-class women is that they consider proportion and silhouette above all. This is probably the most technical and difficult aspect to master, but also the most transformative when you understand it. They know that it's not necessarily what you wear, but how the proportions of the clothes interact with the proportions of your body that make all the difference. They understand that a balanced look has more to do with the correct proportions than with following trends or wearing expensive brands. This secret is particularly powerful because it works for any body type. It's not about being thin or tall like a model, but about understanding your own body and dressing in a way that creates harmony and visual balance. Observe how elegant women balance volumes. If they wear something voluminous on top, like an oversized blouse or a chunky sweater, they balance with something tighter below, like straight pants or a pencil skirt. If they opt for wide leg pants or a voluminous skirt, they combine with a more fitted or structured upper part. This creates balance and prevents the silhouette from looking shapeless or without definition. They also understand the importance of the waist, not necessarily showing it with low waists or cropped tops, which are passing trends, but subtly defining it to create that classic proportion that the human eye naturally considers harmonious. This can be done with a simple thin belt, with the correct length of a blazer, or with the strategic cut of a dress. I myself, with my mid-size body, took time to understand that certain silhouettes favored me more than others. I spent years trying to follow all trends, regardless of how they looked on me. I wore low-waist pants when they were in fashion, even though they created that unflattering muffin top effect. I tried tight tube dresses that made my hips look disproportionately wide. I wore excessively wide blouses that made me look larger than I really am. It was a long and sometimes painful process of self-discovery until I found the silhouettes that really work for my body type. High-waisted pants that elongate my legs, dresses that gently mark the waist, blouses with V necklines that balance my shoulders with my hips. When I finally learned to respect my body type instead of fighting against it, dressing it strategically instead of trying to hide it or transform it, my style improved significantly. And you know what's most interesting? I started to receive many more compliments, not about my clothes themselves, but about my overall appearance. Have you lost weight? Or you look taller? Were frequent comments even when my weight and height obviously had not changed. It was just the power of the correct proportions creating favorable optical illusions, a trick that elegant women master perfectly. And finally, the 11th secret, perhaps the most powerful and important of all. Truly elegant women understand that elegance goes far beyond clothes. It's an attitude, a presence, a way of behaving and treating others. You can be wearing the most expensive dress in the world, the most exclusive jewelry, the most desired shoes, the rarest perfume. But if you treat the waiter, the receptionist, the app driver, or anyone you consider socially below you badly, all your external elegance crumbles instantly. True elegance includes kindness, respect, consideration, and a certain grace in dealing with difficult situations. Elegant women don't make scenes in public, don't humiliate other people, don't openly judge others' choices, don't talk loudly on the phone in shared spaces. They have a certain restraint that doesn't mean repression, but rather consideration for others around them. Once, I was in a restaurant celebrating a friend's birthday. At the table next to us was an impeccably dressed lady. She wore a tweed ensemble that looked like Chanel, and probably was. Discreet, but obviously valuable jewelry, perfect hair, and makeup. Up to that point, she seemed the personification of elegance. But then the waiter made a mistake. He brought the wrong dish to her. What happened next was shocking. She started complaining loudly, saying that the restaurant was incompetent, that the waiter was inattentive, demanding to speak to the manager in an increasingly elevated tone of voice. She was impeccably dressed, but no one at the table seemed impressed. In fact, everyone looked uncomfortable, including her own companions, who tried to calm her discreetly. Meanwhile, on another occasion, I saw a similar situation, a mixed-up order in a restaurant. The customer, a lady of about 60 years old, dressed in a simple but elegant way, just smiled and said calmly, "No problem, these things happen. Could you change it when possible? There's no rush." The waiter, clearly relieved, quickly returned with the correct dish, and later came back offering a dessert on the house. The entire table was treated like royalty for the rest of the evening. True elegance includes kindness and respect for everyone, regardless of their social or professional position. The way you treat people who can do nothing for you says much more about your level of class and sophistication than your Hermes bag or your Louboutin shoes. As my mother always said while I was growing up, observing my teenage obsession with logos and trends. Elegance is not just what you wear, but how you live. It's how you treat people. It's how you talk, how you behave at the table, how you handle conflicts. It's about having consideration for others, having self-control, and knowing how to behave appropriately in any situation. At the time, I rolled my eyes like any teenager, but today I recognize the profound wisdom in those words. Elegance is a holistic approach to life, not just a dress code. You may not have been born into an aristocratic family with generations of tradition. You may not have attended etiquette schools in Switzerland. You may not have learned to ride a horse at age 4 or to speak French before Portuguese. But these secrets I've shared today are absolutely accessible to any woman who is willing to observe, learn, and apply. True elegance is not restricted to a select group defined by surname, bank account, or address. It is available to all of us who wish to cultivate it, one conscious decision at a time, one habit cultivated day after day. If you liked these tips and want to transform your elegance into something lucrative for your life, whether in work opportunities, relationships, or just in the treatment you receive on a daily basis, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to receive more content like this. And don't forget to check out my ebook on how to be an elegant and sophisticated traveler. The link is in the first pinned comment. Because as I always say, elegance is not about how much you spend, but about how you invest. In knowledge, in quality, and in yourself. And that, my dear, is truly lucrative.